And we're on. Wow.
Wow.
So we got
Look at
Jenny
this.
and Kim and Dennis, and they can't tell. Hopefully things will run a little smoother, but new setup in the studio. So
Yeah, that's right. You might notice we don't have a laptop on the desk.
yeah, no obstructions. I had this with Jim. I think on Wednesday I had it set up, but so that's kind of cool.
This is cool.
Yeah. So let's try this. There you go. That way, because when you do this, you show the light.
Oh, all right. Now it just looks like I have this aura.
the Shekinah glow.
Yep.
Yeah. So cool. So good to have you guys on this morning, this Friday morning. I'm not going to say I'm tired. I'm actually not too tired today. Although
I'm tired enough for both of us.
Good. All right.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
And Dennis got on early. Man, he's I think he's figuring that retired thing out a little bit.
Is he retired?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Apparently, if you do things right, you can retire at 55. Apparently, we haven't done things right.
Apparently not. Because here we are.
Yeah. So yeah, I figure if I work until I'm 92 and get a second job at Walmart, then I can retire. I want to be they used to be the greeters. Now we look at them more as they're not the mask police anymore, but
Yeah.
for a while they were kind of the mask police. But, kind of stand there. I'd love that job. I'd be like, how are you doing? Good to see you again. Oh.
That's not the ideal job for me.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to.
Hey, how you doing?
I'd love to just stand there. The other one for me would be like a host at a restaurant. People come in and you get them seated and
Wow.
yeah.
You must like dealing with people or something.
Well, that helps.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it's Friday. Gosh, today's is it August 12th?
It is.
Sure is.
Wow, man.
Halfway through August, just about. It's not supposed to rain today until after 9. Dennis is still trying to figure that out. That's okay. I haven't quite figured the work thing out yet, Dennis. So, I'm glad you retired enough before me that you can get that worked out. You can show me the ropes.
So you were talking about the weather.
Mm-hmm.
We got almost 2 inches yesterday.
Yeah, like in 30 minutes.
Yeah. That was crazy.
It rained a lot.
I was getting ready to build an ark.
So, funny thing, was it Monday? I think it was. On Monday, Cynthia was taking the kids down to see a movie. And they got in the van and they're like driving off from the church, and the passenger side window, the second time this has happened, just went clunk.
Oh, no.
And so they pull back up, and Hillary is with her, and they're like, so what do we do? I said, well, it seems to me it's probably the cable. And yes, I could probably do it by watching YouTube. But anytime, I don't know if you ever worked on stuff like that, when you take those off, there's clips, and you'll break the clips 99% of the time.
Yeah.
And then ordering them apart. And so I said, well, let me give you a big trash bag. When you get there, pull the trash bag down over the door and close the door, put the excess inside. Because it pretty much rains every day, now. And so they went down, and it just started pouring up here. And so I messaged them and said, is it raining down there? She goes, I don't know. We just got out of the movie. It was pouring on them the entire way up.
Oh, wow.
And she's trying to hold the trash bag, which is flapping. You know how that is if you're driving. So Tuesday morning, early before the rain, I got and made something that fits inside the groove where the window is. That's water repellent.
All right.
And so I didn't look after yesterday's rain, but that big rain on Tuesday, I looked and there wasn't a drop in there, so I must have done all right.
Good job.
I know, huh?
Yeah.
So Bethany's on. Good morning.
Yeah.
It's Friday. Yeah.
It is Friday.
Yeah. Today's supposed to be kind of an easy day for me. A little bit. I got some practicing to do on the keyboard, though.
Yes, you do.
After last night, yeah. Got some practicing to do on some
I
songs.
think we all have some practicing to do.
Well, there's one of those songs especially that like you got to change chords, or for you it'd be notes like every beat and a half.
Yep.
Doom, 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 doom. I'm like, whoa, hold on, let me find these. So Angela says you could probably skip some of those. I'm like, I don't know that that's going to sound right.
Play every other note.
Well, I could if I just played it and not held it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep, you can do that.
Yeah, who knows? But other than that, pretty easy day. I was going to, and I may still try to go and I got to get my splitter, make sure my wood splitter's working and the chainsaw's working because it's wood time.
Do it before the rain.
That's what I was thinking. We're gonna have breakfast after this and then go do that. And,
yep.
Except if the rain starts at 9, I might not make it.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yesterday it started early.
It did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it got dark.
Wow. I know. Yeah.
My goodness.
So, of course, we're saying all this, and by the way, it was pretty chilly this morning. It was in the 50s.
I think it was chilly yesterday.
Okay.
Like almost all day.
I don't sleep until 5:30 like some of you. I was up at 5:15, which is about my norm, 5:15. Because I have a dog who doesn't wait. Your dog waits. Good morning, Colleen. Anyways, Jim is on.
Right.
So what we're
What
going
are we talking about?
What we're going to talk about today is, so the message on Sundays is something, those of you who've known me for a while, and most everybody on here, except maybe Susie. Susie's known me maybe the least, only about a year and a half Susie's known me. Know that I can be a little bit of it's only 71 there. Ooh, Bethany, our high is 63. Sorry. I'm not really. So I can be a little ornery, my grandmother would have said.
No.
Yeah,
You?
me.
Really?
So what I like to do is whenever we're talking about stuff in Scripture is to say it. Yeah, she knows I'm not sorry that it's the highest. I think it really is like 63 or something today. It's pretty low. So I like to make people think about stuff in Scripture, because there's some things.
It hasn't worked with me yet.
Some things that we think we know, at least cause you pause. So one of the things that I said Sunday, the big idea is, boy, I forgot what the big idea is. What's the big idea? So we're talking about the ABCs of FBC Cloudcroft, and I forgot the way I phrased it. The big idea is the church. A church is only the church when it's functioning as the church, right?
That's right.
And
I remember that.
And that's a pushback against this idea that I really saw. I've seen it before, but I really saw this one pushed out during COVID. You know, when we everybody was isolating. Is that a person, a believer, at home by themselves is the church? And so went into, because I love languages, a little bit of the language behind that, and when I say stuff like this, I know it shocks people. That's okay, because they can go and search themselves, like the Bereans. Oh no, come back. There we go. I've got to fix that. It's a new computer. Yeah. So the Bereans search out Scripture to make sure everything I say is true. But this is true. The word church, as we have it in the English, is probably the worst translated word that we have in our English Bible, because it doesn't come from the Greek, which is the rest of the New Testament is in Greek. Some Aramaic in there, but usually they'll give the Greek, or they give the translation of what that word means, like Emmanuel, which means God with us, because Emmanuel is a Hebrew Aramaic word. Church was translated from a German word, Kirche, which came about through a weird way from the Greek, but it wasn't the word that Jesus used. It was two other words that translated then into German. German translated into Kirche, which means the Lord's house. So we took the word Kirche and translated that in the church. When the word that Jesus used is ecclesia, that's the Greek word, which means literally called out. So the assembly, the gathering, congregation would have been a good word to translate it to, except now we use that in different ways, just like baptism. So to say that I alone am assembly or a gathering sounds weird. I mean, that's the word Jesus used. And, Peter's confession, and on this rock I will build my assembly, my gathering. And what that means is a group of people who are gathered for a specific purpose. And so what we ended up with on Sunday is our working definition of church. I love that. When it freezes, you always have the best looks on your face.
What are the odds?
Yeah, I know, right? Every single time. You're always looking at me like I just said something crazy, which probably a lot.
What are the odds?
What we ended up with, our working definition, something like this, is that the church, and almost always in the New Testament, probably better than 90% of the time, when that word church is used, is talking about a local gathering of people.
Right.
So the church is a group of believers who are committed to God and to one another to carry out the Great Commission. So that's our working definition of church. And I gave some examples: the churches in Galatia, the church in Jerusalem, the church in Corinth, the church in Thessalonica, the church in Ephesus, the church in Smyrna, all the churches in Revelation, in Pergamum, the church in Thyatira, the church in Sardis, the church in Philadelphia.
I was waiting for that.
That's not this one. That's not the American Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And the church in Laodicea, or Laodicea, depending on how you say it. So it always refers to, or better than 90% of the time, a local gathering of people, of believers who are committed to God and one another to carry out the Great Commission. So,
okay.
So we have to push back against this idea that I am the church. We can say we are the church, but even then we have to be careful, because some people will say that they want to be in isolation and they want to say that we are the church, but what they mean is me and then the guy in Kenya, my brother Evans.
Mm-hmm.
That Evans and I are the church. Biblically speaking, no, we're not.
You're not gathered.
We aren't.
Yeah.
Evans is a part of a church there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a part of a church here. But that idea of the church big C, or universal church, which sounds like a cult when I say it that way, really that's the big C church is all believers of all time. And that will only be, in my opinion, that will only be when we get to heaven, because that's when we will all be gathered together.
Yeah, but even then, you are not that church either. You are part of it.
Part of that church, right? So the reason that we really kind of dug into this was that I kind of see that as a dodge, and then I had to admit on Wednesday, one of the things 2 years ago we talked about is rethink everything. Mm-hmm. So digital the same as physical, and one thing we really need to work on this year. The theme for this year is going to be reconnect. It was re-engage last year, but reconnect this year. And so we really need to work hard that we can flesh out that digital better, so that those who are joining us digitally can still connect. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That we if you can't engage in a digital way, then it's like watching TV. It's not really participating. So we need to figure that out better than we have. So I don't know what question to ask this morning.
I was
I
just
have
gonna.
one.
I was just gonna point out that Java and Jesus is a good way to connect and engage because we do have two-way communication.
It is, and I love that. And,
Yeah.
and so we need to ask a question so that they can engage. Are you ready for the
Yes.
question?
Yeah, as long as you're asking them.
Okay. Well, this one is a what do you think kind of question. So I know you can come up with an answer easy. Doesn't have to be the right answer, but we won't know if it's the right answer. So why do you think it is that some people, Jenny is one that I'm thinking, so we're going to work on that. But why do you think it is that some people, how did we come up with this idea that I alone am the church?
I have an idea, but
Okay.
I'll let them chime in.
So you guys chime in. So how do you think it is that we came up with this idea that, and I even have, I did this like right at the beginning of COVID, because the building isn't the church, even though that comes from the German word, the Lord's house. The building's not the church. The worship service isn't the church. The people are the church. And that's what Beverly pointed out, I think on Wednesday, or at least Jim told me on Wednesday. Here's the church, here's the steeple, open the door, and here's all the people.
Mm-hmm.
That we are the church. And so I have a graphic that has been up for 2 years now, 2.5. That says, be the church. You know what I mean? But why is it that we, or how did we come up with this idea, or why is it that we want to stay with this idea that I alone am the church, that I can be off in the woods, we call it the forest here, I can be off in the forest with my Bible and that I'm the church, and that really kind of that's all I need. So why do you guys think that is? And by the way, Jenny, we're really going to work on that. I want to have some Bible studies that are purely digital, because hybrid's hard to do. We pretty well nailed it in the men's Bible study, but it's taken us over 2 years to get there.
Yeah, we still have difficulty sometimes.
Occasionally, yeah. Usually when I go away on vacation or something.
Yeah.
So why do you think that is? Why do you think that might appeal to some people, to say that I'm the church? Or I see that, and then the other way I see it is they want to broaden it. They make it very broad. Well, every believer is part of the church,
Mm-hmm.
right? So why do you think that is? We talked about a lot of that in the men's Bible study on Tuesday night, by the way. It was a good discussion at the end.
It was.
So why do you think that is? You guys chime in.
Any ideas?
Engage with us.
That's right.
Let us know. I've thought about trying to do this in a Zoom kind of way, but that gets super complicated. Because that's a good thought.
Mm-hmm.
I've not really thought of it that way, because our relationship with Jesus is personal.
Yeah. Yeah, but does a relationship with Jesus make you the church?
What she's saying is that then they relate that then to,
I get it,
that
they
being
relate
part of the church is a
being
personal
part of the church.
Mhm.
Yes.
So so some people need to know who to follow. So maybe they're not quite sure how to do church.
Yeah. Wow.
In this age, we got to figure this out better in a digital way. So Bethany, here's what I said a lot of times before. Maybe not out loud, but at least in my head, that a relationship with Jesus is personal, but it's never meant to be private.
I actually heard you say that before.
You remember that? Thank
I do.
you. Relationship with Jesus is personal, but it's never meant to be private, and people get those confused. And I know, and because we've gotten this pushback a whole lot in the U.S. Keep your faith to yourself. Keep your faith to yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, the idea of separation of church and state. If you know a little bit of history, you know that is so that the state doesn't interfere with the church not the other way around. Um, but that they would say you need to leave your faith at home. You can't bring it to school. If you work for any government entity, you can't bring it in.
Work. Yeah.
You still work for the Department of Defense, or again, you work for Department of Defense. So you might have some of that there. I don't know how that probably is going to depend on what section you're in and stuff. But um, we get that idea. But that's not a biblical idea. The biblical idea is never that it's supposed to be private. But we take that, we extend that into, well, it's private. That's between me and God, you know. No, not biblically. It's not. Do you know how I know? Because Jesus said in Matthew 28.
You know,
And
and I get it. Your relationship with Jesus is personal, and going off and being alone and praying. That's all good, but does that make you the church?
No.
Yeah.
And
then, I mean, that's the fundamental question here. Is that good enough? Just having a relationship with them and never interacting with other people, never sharing it with other people. Is that good enough?
Yeah. Funny. So Hope chimed in, and she had to put that it's Hope because it looks like I'm responding. Hope just got back from Collegiate Week, so that's where the college ministries gather together in Oklahoma.
Okay.
And that's good that they brought that out, because I could see that in college kids too. One of the things Cynthia and I met, we were part of the Baptist Student Union, BSU, back in that day. Now they call it Christian Challenge, because it's a challenge to be a Christian on campus, I think. But anyways,
Okay.
That kids kind of check out during the college years from church.
Yeah.
And here's some reasons I think. You can chime in with some. Here's some reasons I think that appeals to people. One is accountability. They don't like that kind of, because we do see our faith as a private thing. But I don't need anybody messing with my business, you know. So I think that would be one. That's probably not a whole lot of people, but I could see that with maybe some. So what are your thoughts?
I think it's the easy way out. It's a whole lot easier not to interact with people.
There are days.
No, seriously. It's like, is it easier to mingle with people, worship with people? I mean, they're some people are difficult to be around. I'm one of them, by the way. But
I don't know. Maybe we're too much alike then.
But you get it. I mean, it's like it can be a whole lot more pleasant not being around people than being around people. But I do think you're spot on with your point about accountability, because being held accountable can make you uncomfortable, get you out of your comfort zone.
But that's part of what we talked about, the need that we have for men, particularly not in that kind of way, but and when we talk about accountable, we don't mean, there's some denominations that like, all right, bring your tax returns. We want to see what you make and make sure you're tithing and all this other. Not that way. But in a good way, the biblical way of accountability, and the way I talked about it in the men's Bible study, is I've got two guys on either side to help me stay where I need to go. And there are times where they may even need to help carry me. I mean, I might not be able to do it on my own. So that accountability, camaraderie kind of brotherhood is what we're talking about. I'll tell you what I think is the number one reason, and it may encompass a lot of these. Are you ready?
Yes.
This is going to get more and more difficult with each generation. It's that the commitment that it takes is more than they're willing to do.
What?
It's a huge commitment. I know it is. The commitment of your time is enormous. I mean, I don't mean that in a church. I just mean the fact that, everybody's so busy. You have stuff to do. And to commit your time to do that. That's why one of the reasons I want to press into the digital, because I think that can open doors for us with people.
Mm-hmm.
But a commitment of time. I mean, just thinking and praying about some people in our church I haven't seen in a while, and they just here's one of the things that I said during COVID, and I meant, I don't know how many actually heard this, especially when we were not gathering together in person, when we were online only, although some of us still had to gather to do the online. Mm-hmm. Is parents with kids, I caution them, hey guys, I understand now this is digital, you can go back and look anytime, but I said what you need to do is to get yourself and your kids ready every morning to come sit down with your Bibles open at 10 o'clock to watch the live stream. And boy, we had some pretty rocky live streams in the beginning, still occasionally do. But to do that, because if you, especially with your kids, parents with young kids particularly, if you get out of that habit, most parents then wouldn't grab their kids and sit down at Thursday after dinner and watch it together like you were gathering together as a church. So it would just be the parents, but the kids would get so out of the habit that it would be really hard to get back in that habit again. Yeah. So,
yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
So
yeah.
but that, and I thought, how would that look like for me when my kids were little? That would be kind of weird. All right, kids, we got to get ready. Well, why? We're not going anywhere, but we need to get ready because worship is at 10. And by the way, that kind of gathering, that's only a small piece of what it means to gather, a group of people who are committed to God and one another for sharing, or not sharing, but carrying out the Great Commission.
Yeah, and that actually, dovetails into what I was trying to say. I think you said it better, but I said they're taking the easy way out.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. It may encompass a lot of this,
right? Because it is hard to commit to being somewhere at a specific time.
Mm-hmm.
But the natural extension of being off alone in the woods. I guess for some people, hey, what if you don't like being in the woods? I know, hey, I'm going to be the church in bed. Right?
I'm the church everywhere I go.
Right.
That kind of thought.
I'm going to just lay in bed and be the church.
Yeah. Well, and so not just, I don't want to just harp on the gathering that happens on Sunday, because where this all comes up, I want us to have a good foundation for what it means to be the church as we head into, because the title of this series is the ABCs of FBC Cloudcroft. Mm-hmm. And the ABCs are this: attend, that we do gather. That one is talking about the Sunday worship, that we gather together at least twice a month. I mean, that was the average attendance of a committed church member before COVID. I think it can actually be higher these days because we have so many more options. Then beyond that, so we attend at least twice a month, that we belong to a small group that meets at least twice a month, because it's in smaller groups. I love our men's Bible studies that we do, the bond that we have together. Yeah. It's in those where I think the most growth happens. And then that you commit to two things. One is to serve, that you're serving in the body. Paul talks about that big time in I think it's 1 Corinthians chapter 12, where he talks about being a part of the body. You can't be a hand off by yourself and be a part of the body. I mean, the body is all the parts together. And that you commit to share, to carrying out the Great Commission, to sharing the gospel. So you put all those together, and that's big commitments. And I think each generation is going to get harder and harder to do. Yeah. To be able to say, I commit. I was so encouraged. I had someone come up Sunday after the message and said, we want to belong to a small group. Awesome. I'm like, yes. Not just that we're trying to pump up numbers, but by the way, just so you know, every year we fill out, it's called an annual church profile, and we report all the numbers and this for the Southern Baptist Convention. Um, that got so hard with online stuff. It's hard to, to gauge your online. That's why we want engagement. That'll
Right.
help us a bit more. So it's a huge commitment, and I think what I'm seeing in generations coming up, and I work with students, and I still work with the kids, is that, and it's parents were teaching this to our kids, so we need to be real careful. We teach them the right things, but to not make a commitment. So I work with the students. So if I ask them to commit to something, we have a student retreat coming up in October. To commit to doing that, very few of them will commit to that right now. And there's two aspects to that. One of them is the students themselves. What if if they commit to it and then something really fun comes up? So they don't want to commit, they want to hold off. The other one is they may not be able to commit to it because their parents can't commit to that weekend. And not that the parents have to be there, but obviously they're not going out of town that weekend if they're going to be here. Or maybe the parents will drop them off and run. I don't know.
That happens too sometimes.
Overnight, hey, it's a free overnight thing for the parents. It's not free, but I'd pay $50. Well, never mind. My kids were 8 years apart. I never got that opportunity except when Hillary was little. But you get what I'm saying. So the harder it is for the parents to commit, the harder it is for the kids to commit. But then they grow up keeping their options open. I don't want to commit, to something. I had someone tell me they can't commit to. We're trying to plan 3 months out now with the worship tech stuff. That they can't commit to 3 months out. And I'm just like, okay, because I kind of know when I'm going to be out of town. You know when you're going to be out of town.
Generally. I mean,
there are things that happen.
Stuff comes up, but my gosh, would you rather have a lot of time to plan or little time to plan?
Well, I tell you, I plan pretty much for a year out. Now, I don't have my vacation planned for next year, but my plan is that I'm here on a Sunday unless something,
Something
fun comes up. Oh, no. Trust me, I'll be here on Sunday no matter what fun thing might come up.
I know you.
But you know what I mean? Yes. And not just for that, but for men's Bible studies too. I mean, I can look ahead. I'm going to be gone.
Yep, absolutely.
What is it, October the 4th?
No. Well, it's a matter of priorities. You put it on your calendar and you schedule around it.
And you make a commitment.
Yeah.
But I understand, our generation doesn't have as much problem with this. It's the younger millennial and Gen Z or iGen or Gen Screen or whatever we want to call the newest ones, but having more trouble with that. And so, but I think that's it. I think that's probably the biggest overarching thing. Is it's a huge commitment to be part of the church. That way to commit to a local group, and you have the accountability comes with it. It's a whole lot easier to say, yeah, we have a meeting on Monday and someone said, I'll try to make it. Okay, so what does that mean? The way I do stuff is if we're going to meet for lunch, I plan on that. Well, let's do that. If something comes up, I'll let you know. But that's the plan.
Right.
If I said, yeah, well, if I don't have anything better going on, I'll try to make it. If I told you, I'm going to meet you somewhere for lunch and I'll try to make it, you would be like, what do you mean? You're going to try to make it?
Are you going to be there or not?
Right. Yeah. So anyways, I think the commitment's huge. So Colleen said, that's right. And so Colleen, here's something huge that people need to understand. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
The world changed in 2020 and it's not going to change back. There are some things that changed in 2020 that won't change back. Some of them we might have the option to change and some of them we don't have the option to change. But in 2020, everything changed. Everything did.
You're right.
The way you do work's different. So what I would encourage, especially as it relates to those in our church, is one of the big things we're going to do this year, coming year, 2023. Is that the year coming up? Wow. Yeah. In 2023. That sounds so science fiction-y, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Is to have community groups that everybody can be involved in. If what they're saying is, if you don't do it my way, I'm not coming, that they're going to have some trouble. It's going to be hard. But it's not just us. Churches across the world are that way. That's okay, Colleen, because God will provide. We do what we do because it's the right thing to do, not because it's what someone wants us to do.
Yep.
And I've been making decisions that way for a long, long time. So that's sad. I hate that. But think about this. If you had a part of your body that says, well, if you quit doing that, I'm not going to function anymore. That's hard, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, I was actually going to key in on that when you mentioned before, Paul was preaching that we all have our unique part of the church. We're all part of the body, and part of the body can't function alone. Well, that's another reason not to be off alone, right?
Yeah. Well, here's something that's been true of me, and I really in the last year have started feeling this. I'm 55. My body changed. I used to be able to be conscious that I needed to lose some weight, and I would lose it just by saying, you know what, I probably need to lose some weight. I had a metabolism back then. My body's changing. I don't want it to change. I mean, I don't care about the hair thing, but good grief, I need to bend over and tie my shoes. You know what I mean? So what I need to learn to do is how do I do what I need to do with the changes that I'm experiencing? And that's actually been every church everywhere. I don't know of a single church that I've talked to that everything went back the way it was.
Yeah.
Because the only constant is change, isn't that right?
That's what they say.
What happened with 2020, and I can see this in almost every area. By the way, I go to leadership conferences. I was just at one last week, and we're talking about CEOs of companies like In-N-Out Burger, Chick-fil-A. I mean, those huge companies. And what happened in 2020 is the speed of change. It was already almost exponential. That's been true in technology for a long time. But the speed of change in everything was exponential. It has increased. In fact, blur is probably a good way to describe change now, and I don't think it's going to slow down. But this is a big commitment.
It is
to make, and you can't be a part of the body if you're not part of the body, right? So
truer words were never spoken.
I'm not saying that none of the Baptist churches have Sunday school. I'm saying that everything changed. Everything changed. And what I would say is I have great difficulty with someone saying, I'm not going to go to a church because I don't have Sunday school.
Mm-hmm.
What if I don't go to church because they don't have a good coffee bar?
I'm out.
Now, if there's a church that has no small groups, I can see that as a problem.
Yeah.
I can see it as a problem. But if it's because it changed from the way that it used to be, then that's hard.
Yeah, but again, I see it as more of an excuse than the easy way out.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not going to church because there's no Sunday school, are you looking for another church that does?
Yeah, usually.
Well, I don't think so. I see other people who are just using that as an excuse to worship from bed. You know?
Some of them are watching online. And gosh, you can attend any church you want now online.
That's right.
If you actually engage, that's okay. But anyways, Sunday school is a that's a whole different deal. But what about the people in China who still, and that's just one example, there are many, they get up at 3 a.m., some of them even earlier than that, and go meet in seclusion. They gather together at risk of their livelihood. Some of them risk of their life.
Imprisonment or death.
Right. So that makes it kind of a hard thing, but commitment is a big deal.
Yeah, they get the importance of it, at least.
Yeah. Well, let me pray for you guys. We have waxed long, 43 minutes.
That's a record, I think.
And most of them have hung in. So let me pray for you guys and send you off into your weekend. Right. Father, thank you for your love. Lord, help us to keep in mind that we are a gathering of believers as local churches who are committed to you and to one another to carry out the Great Commission. And Father, I pray, Lord, that you would help us to resist the temptation to pull off on our own for whatever reasons. And God, to come together as local bodies of Christ to carry out the things that you've called us to do, mainly making disciples. And I pray that you'd help us to do that in a way that brings you honor and glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thanks, guys, for jumping in, for hanging in with us. Good grief for so long. We will see you hopefully Sunday, and then on Monday again for Java and Jesus. Love you guys.
See ya.